The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello there. Welcome to another edition of The Square Ball with me, Dan, with Michael, with Rob. So, Angus Kinnear has spoken to us, no less. That's funny, isn't it? Coops has finally departed. His destination's being confirmed. We're about to face Burnley at the weekend after the international break. Coming out of the international break, Max Verber appears to be the only one injured. And speaking of people in ill health, Big Sam called George's shit and everybody fat and lazy.
Which is rich coming from him.
Yes. So, where would you like to start? Bit of analysis on Angus Kinnear and what he said to us?
It's not come out yet, has it, as we record this, so we don't know if everyone hates it or not. Hopefully not. I don't know. It was all right. Would be my assessment. I don't feel there was anything massive came out of it necessarily. But
Which is something I picked up on at the start. I mean, you weren't on the show, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
We were. We lived it. We lived the dream and lived to tell the tale. What did you make of it?
I mean, it depends how cynical and pedantic you want to be at times. There are things you can pick up on and be like, ha, got you. Like things when he's saying, you know, if we'd signed Brendan Aronson now at half the price, people would have loved it. And it's like, yeah, but you signed him then at double the price. So that's kind of the folly of it all. But I think it kind of just reinforced to me that when things are sort of going all right on the pitch, it's fine. Like you can sort of just get away with it. And this, you can't really argue with it because Leeds are winning and people are happy. There were other things about Red Bull, the ticket pricing, which, let's just say, raised an eyebrow, I guess. But people will have heard it, I'm sure, by now. But yeah, it just reinforced that it's much easier when Leeds are doing well rather than last summer when Leeds had just been relegated and he had to come in and say, yeah, we got that wrong. Yeah, we got that wrong. Yeah, we got that wrong. And also, like, there's nothing you can do to rectify that other than we will try and get it right again.
Yeah, go up.
Exactly.
And he addressed that, and I did agree with him that all the bad feeling, no matter what you make of stuff like John Kevin Augustin, which we didn't touch on specifically, but I'm bracketing that one under sins of the past.
I did mention the court meeting.
You did, yeah. That was the high point in terms of humour in the show. But yeah, that stuff obviously an absolute car crash, but we knew that. So yeah, you can overlook these things if you're up, can't you? But there's like a microscope applied to everything because we're not, and we failed at that last season. And I kind of agree with where he was coming from, his assessment of that, yeah, until it's going right, everything you do is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard because, like, the things that they have fucked up in the past, like, they've already been fucked up. So you can't now change that. But I was interested when he, once again, started talking about his opposition to a football regulator and saying how it stops clubs being ambitious. And then later on, when you asked him to reflect on his role in the relegation, he said, well, I'm never going to apologise for being ambitious with Leeds United. And you sort of think, well, yeah, like you were still able to be ambitious. Again, you just fucked it up. And we are still sort of trying to get out of that now. But because things are generally seem a bit calmer at the minute, certainly now that the window's closed, you sort of think, well, come on, let's crack on. And then we can all probably judge this in a few months' time and we will either laugh and pour scorn on it or we'll go, okay, fair enough, we've been promoted. It's all good.
Yeah, and the PSR stuff I thought was interesting and to finally hear that, yeah, the club just saying, look, we have to sell. We had to sell because that's just what PSR makes you do, particularly the squeeze in the EFL compared to the Premier League. One thing I didn't pick up on during the show, which has kind of dawned on me in the couple of days since we recorded it, is that actually, on reflection, we didn't need to sell Archie because we, as Angus said, we needed to sell 2 and we ended up selling 3. So if they'd known Georgie was going to go, they wouldn't have had to sell Archie as well. But with the 30th deadline looming and them needing to box off the PSR thing for the 3-year cycle, he had to go. Or they felt he did at the time. So it feels like a bit of a shame. Like we might have been able to have a different outcome there had things fallen in a different way. Like I think they fully expected to sell Somerville first. And if he'd gone, then that probably takes the heat out of everything. Mm-hmm. Didn't manage it. 30th ticks around and somebody has to be the sacrificial lamb. And unfortunately, the most valuable sacrificial lamb is the one you want to sell probably the least.
But it turns out it's shit anyway.
Right.
According to Sam.
I was thinking about Archie rather than Georgie.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were on about Georgie because he's your special boy.
But yeah, I mean, look, I think we're gonna get into it in a little bit more depth on the members show rather than occupying another full show talking about the same stuff, and just what it was like to, as an experience, and sort of debrief it, and all that. But we'll get onto the sort of more current affairs at Ellen Road, and well, not quite current affairs, as you say. Should we deal with that one? What Big Sam said about everyone being shit and fat. I don't mean this podcast. I mean at Ellen Road.
At Ellen Road. Yeah, he just said that Georgie wasn't good enough and he couldn't believe we paid that much money for him.
This was on Under the Cosh, by the way, just to credit
under circumstances, he was too young. Coming in and playing in a struggling Premier League side that young was a lot to ask. But he didn't really play, did he? So he didn't ask him to do it. Well,
Allardyce basically refused to acknowledge him that time, wasn't it? Was it at West Ham? We said we had no strikers on the bench and Georgie was sat there like, Sam, it's me.
I mean, Georgie is demonstrably not a striker because he can't finish.
That is true. But also, I mean, Kinnear said it in the podcast going back to that Georgie wasn't ready and he needed 6 months to bed in. And again, you go back to the sins of the past. That was kind of one of them because we didn't have 6 months for him to bed in. We needed someone to help us avoid relegation. But yeah, Allardyce's other interesting comments with that the fitness levels once Bielsa had gone just completely fell through the floor. He said they went from hero to zero, which I think we could basically see. Certainly when, as soon as Bielsa had gone and Marsh was here, that Mateus Click was on a golf course drinking beer and eating sausage rolls. It was hardly a surprise, I guess.
Yeah, when you counterpoint that with the stories of knowing that players were desperate to meet weight targets when Bielsa was here and putting in extra work to make sure, and they were weighed like daily, weren't they? At least, I think something mad like that. So,
yeah. Well, that was the Stuart McKinstry interview the other week where he was saying he was going to bed hungry because he was scared of missing his weight target, and I think
possibly a bit extreme.
Yeah, there's probably a balance in the middle there where it's a bit healthier.
But yeah, we did see it. We did see actually going back a year on when Angus was in the year before, and we spoke in more depth about what went wrong under Jesse. I'm fairly sure he acknowledged it then. I can't quite remember. I did listen to it back in the run up to this one, but I can't quite remember. But I'm fairly sure he acknowledged that the fitness levels weren't quite there. But then I suppose the nature of what a lot of Jesse's football was about short runs, wasn't it? Because it was all just charging around like a headless chicken, trying to close down over short distances, and then watching players just pass it either round you or over you, and then getting in at the far post.
Throw that net round them.
Yes.
But there's sometimes holes in it.
Yeah.
Particularly at the edges of the pitch where people can run into big spaces.
Yeah. In less than 12 months, they had gone from the top of the tree to third from bottom, just quoting Big Sam again. 2 previous coaches had completely destroyed the fitness level of the team.
It's interesting because I don't think of Allardyce's teams as being necessarily fit. I think of them as being sort of strong and physical, but not necessarily like able to do a ton of running. Because he used to get, particularly at Bolton, he used to get in like the old timers, didn't he? He'd get like Djorkaeff and Freddie Bobic and Ivan Campo and people like that who were not runners. I mean, yeah, JJ Okocha. Surely Georgie fits perfectly into that mould of someone who
like enigmatic
is just doing their own thing for most of a game, but maybe just not got the experience.
But I mean, in fairness to Allardyce, I know he's sort of perceived as a footballing dinosaur, but he strikes me as somebody who has kept abreast at least of like modern methods, and I suppose fitness standards have changed as they've been able to do a lot more in terms of like proper GPS vests and stuff like that. They can see distances covered and speed and all that kind of stuff and get really properly granular on it. So I mean, I know we like to ignore basically anything he said because it represents a time of great pain at Leeds, but you do wonder if that is true to at least a degree.
I mean, Allardyce takes virtually none of the blame for us going down because I think by the time the very fact he's brought in is indicative of the fact that everyone believes we are definitely going down. So he's brought in to be like, well, let's try this as a last roll of the dice. But I don't, in terms of the blame that season, it goes somewhere from the board to Marsh to a bit of Gracia to a bit of Allardyce. But I think the damage was done, wasn't it, by the time he arrived?
I do like how he keeps throwing Javi Gracia into all this. Like, the guy was there about 6 weeks, mate. He was appointed in March, end of February? Like, I mean, yeah, I know it wasn't great, but I think the damage had been done by that point.
Yeah, and don't you, like the foundation for your whole season is set in the summer in terms of fitness and your prep work and all that kind of stuff, which I suppose actually, I know people got wound up, and Kinnear addressed this in the chat that we had, got wound up with the first month of this season, particularly those first 2 games of the season, because we didn't quite manage to get it over the line against Portsmouth, and West Brom wasn't great and all that, and Georgie was leaving and everything felt really, really bad before those 2 wins. But they would have been a lot readier, I suppose, this summer in terms of the behind-the-scenes fitness work and tactical work compared to 12 months previous. They had to have been. I know there's been a lot of squad churn, but it feels like it was probably more stable this time than last, and hopefully we'll see the benefits of that over the course of the season.
Let's see.
Let's see.
Let's see. I'm not prepared to, at this stage, deem the summer a big success because we don't know, do we yet? I remember a few games into the Jesse Marsh season, we had enough points that we had a 97% chance of staying up or whatever it was, and then we know what happened. So let's just see.
In terms of somebody who's not fit then, Max Verba, I missed all this from the international break. He's definitely then, he's 100% according to your sources, as in the internet?
Yeah, according to the internet. I don't have many sources in the Austrian national team. But yeah, he missed the second friendly, and it was reported that he was having knee problems. But knowing what we know about Verba, I'm willing to say he's just a massive shirker.
I mean, I said on one of the previous shows that he looked like an old lady at times. His face looks like an old lady's. Maybe he's had a fall. Maybe he needs a hip replacement.
It's possible.
I remember when that happened to my nan.
She all right in the end?
I mean, not now.
Not now, no.
No. She's been dead 11 years, Michael.
Right. Well, sorry about that.
And your hip is still going strong.
But Verba hopefully will fare better.
Okay. I mean, I couldn't care less where he is in 11 years. I'm pretty sure it won't be at Ellen Road,
Yeah.
truth be told. Yeah, fine. If he's the only one that's come back injured, he's the one you'd have picked, isn't he? Truth be told.
Just pick an injury.
If you have to pick a sacrificial lamb,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Max, but
Like
it's you.
in Escape to Victory when they break the keeper's arm.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
Sylvester Stallone can go in goals.
Precisely.
Just like that.
Similar thing.
Yeah. International roundup. Then what else has happened in the international roundup? England won again.
We saw Glenn Kamara
Glenn Kamara. Do you see him in midfield there against some English midfielders?
doing some spinny round passy stuff, wasn't he?
He actually dribbled forward at one point. He got all the way to the halfway line. I think that was about as far as
Did he then begin
England got.
bleeding from his ears?
Lobbed it back to the keeper.
I watched about 10 minutes of it and I was like, oh, Glenn Kamara's there. And then lost all interest as soon as that novelty had worn off.
Yeah, I had it on in the background whilst doing other stuff.
Yeah.
It was fine, wasn't it? Harry Kane scored a couple of decent goals. Fine, whatever.
Presumably you're watching videos on YouTube about soil movement and things like that.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Willie Nonto, is he back fighting fit? I think he is, isn't he?
He got an assist. Because, yeah, that was the one worry, I guess, after the first round of games. He'd had his foot stood on, but he seemed to be fine. So that is good. Albeit we should say we're recording before Farke's presser. So
Well, we don't know, do we?
he could sit down and be like, oh, actually, they're all broken.
Mm.
And Max Verba's back.
Junior Firpo was up front for the Dominican Republic.
Dropped from up front anyway.
Right wing? Right
he was,
back.
He was sort of left wing, wasn't
Central
he?
midfield.
He was
Seems
kind
to
of
be the
like,
gist.
yeah, left of a midfield three. So he's still living his best life, I guess. And he got an assist as well with like a flicked header. So kind of half central midfielder, half target man.
2-0 win, that one, was it?
I believe so, against Dominica.
Local derby?
I mean, it's that qualifying, so yeah, I think they all are.
Right.
By their nature, they're all like in a little cluster, aren't they?
Matteo Joseph, half an hour as a sub for the Spain 21s in a 1-0 against Hungary. That was on Tuesday.
Didn't score, finished
Finished player.
playing.
Brendan Aronson, 66 minutes for USMNT. 1-1 with New Zealand. A lot of travelling there for somebody.
Don't actually know where it was played, to be fair. But I did read that he got beaten up, was the quote that I'd read on Goal, I think it was, in their player ratings. He said he got beaten up by some New Zealand players. I don't know if Chris Wood was involved. But by all accounts, he was better than the previous game he played, when I saw a few USMNT fans on Twitter were getting a bit fed up of him. But he was playing on the wing that game, whereas this game he was back at number 10.
And Tanaka, you said you didn't want any of our players to play, Michael, during the international break, ideally,
Correct.
in the show before.
Apart from Max Verba.
Apart from Max Weber. But Tanaka didn't play.
Good.
So he'll be...
Unless he didn't play because he picked up a knock.
Because he's injured, yeah. Hopefully he's all right then for the weekend. And it is Burnley at the weekend. You looking forward to that?
I suppose so. As much as you can look forward to playing Burnley.
Don't know really what to expect from them, because you expect them to be challengers this year, but there's been so much churn and turmoil. You don't look at it and think that's a happy, settled place.
Well, no. I mean, I did see him appointing Scott Parker, and even though he's weirdly got 2 teams out of this league and has a good record, I was quite pleased they'd appointed him because he just doesn't feel like a fit, doesn't Burnley? He's too cockney. Bournemouth's fine. I know it's not London, before anyone picks me up on this, but Bournemouth's fine for cockneys. Burnley's not. You saw Eddie Howe. Again, I know Eddie Howe's not a cockney, but he's a southern man. He's a man of the south. And he went to Burnley and he just couldn't fit in.
Is there a point at which you just sort of writing off everybody as cockneys here? Is it about the Watford gap?
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah. I don't know. Where is Eddie Howe from? It's very hard to place
I
that
imagine
accent.
he's from Bournemouth, but
You're
you're just going anywhere south of Barnsley, though. You're a cockney, aren't you?
Yeah, he's from Amersham. That is more or less London, isn't it, Amersham? It's like north. It's probably almost got a tube station, I think, as Amersham.
Sounds like it would have, doesn't it?
So, yeah. Anyway, what I'm saying is Scott Parker cannot thrive in Burnley.
No.
Because I've been to Burnley and the Bladigans won't fly there.
No, as I said on one of the shows recently, I did a walk a couple of weeks ago from Burnley train station back over to Hebden Bridge, and it passes Turf Moor. And I just couldn't imagine him there. It's like a classic, these Hollywood classic fish out of water type movies. Usually a rom-com. Doesn't feel like this is a rom-com.
No, it's from Lambeth,
right.
which is very much proper. That's proper London, isn't it?
Yeah, going in there with his fancy ways.
And his special walk.
Yeah. Why are you putting gravy on everything, lad? Why are you putting gravy on everything, lads?
I suspect he's related to a redknapp somehow, isn't he, Scott Parker?
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
Who is he?
I think he is. Is he not?
I think you're confusing the Redknapp Lampard axis here.
Yeah,
somehow.
but they all sort of blur into one, don't they?
I feel like he's still related to Harry Redknapp somehow.
Right.
Maybe through an illegitimate child.
Right.
Just going to speculate.
That is a big claim.
That is a big claim.
Right.
Maybe delete that bit.
No, we'll leave that in. Yeah.
You said it, not us.
Yeah. I don't care. So they went to Luton and won 4-1. Then they beat Cardiff 5-0.
Although they weren't I didn't see it, but I did weirdly see people saying they weren't actually very good in winning 5-0.
Right.
Like, it could have gone either way, could that, for a long period.
I would love to be terrible and win 5-0.
Yeah, it'd be all right, wouldn't it?
They lost to Sunderland, who were on a pretty hot streak in the early part of the season. Second round of the EFL Cup. I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, normally we do get to that.
Oh, right. Is that normally where we exit?
That is where we exit.
Yeah, they lost to Wolves, and then they played in their local derby, which, as I mentioned on the show the other week, when I walked past the Royal Dyche in Burnley, which is just down the road from the stadium, the sandwich board outside with the information on about, things coming up at this venue was 12:30, Saturday the 31st of August, Burnley versus Bastards. And the Bastards in question are Blackburn, and they drew 1-1. So, yeah, it's turned into a bit of a mixed bag.
And they've lost and bought just like an entire squad of the people. I must admit, early in the summer, I looked at their squad and it had 43 players in or something stupid. So it probably did need a little trim.
Is that guy that we wanted to buy still there?
Benson.
Yes.
I think he ended up staying. He was linked with loads of places, but I think he ended up staying there. And they also got Jaden Anthony as well.
Yep. He's on a loan with an option, isn't he?
Yeah, same as us.
Right.
I think. Did we get an option?
I don't think we had an option.
Did we not have an option?
No.
No, fair enough. Suppose it's nice to see him again.
Yeah, he got an assist on his debut, I saw. I kind of want him to do well, just not against Leeds.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how when we picked him up, you thought, well, I know he didn't set the world alight because we were losing as a signing because we were losing Sinistera in the same exchange. And but you went, oh, well, do you know what? He's on the fringes of the Bournemouth squad. All right, he's a natural fit for Bournemouth because he's got 2 first names. He must be all right. And then you think he was mostly all right-ish without being particularly influential at Leeds. And then you thought, well, he's going to go back because he's not really played all that much, and presumably he's going to want to pick up his Premier League career. But it feels like this is kind of his lot in life now, is that he's come out on loan to us. He's now at Burnley with an option. Is that what he's become? Have we made him a permanent loanee / top-end Champo player?
On my Football Manager save, he helped Leeds get promoted and then went on loan to Burnley, scored about 25 goals, and they still didn't sign him either. So I think, his life is a perennial Bournemouth loanee.
So I sort of wouldn't have minded him back in some ways, but then I'd much rather have the players we did sign. So it just falls into that, like, well, if there's no one else, we'll go get him again because he's a bit of a known quantity, and he was fine. He had some nice moments, but just his role was generally coming off the bench when we weren't doing very well, though, or when we weren't doing very well and he only had 10 minutes to do anything, or when we were doing well and he was just rested and the game was pretty much dead because it was just like, well, we're just going to play out the remaining 15 minutes of this by making some subs.
Did he play at Stoke? Which I've always kept that in my mind as one of the games that really flicked a switch in Farke's mind when we lost at Stoke, when he made quite a number of changes to the team. Because that's when Gruev first came in, wasn't it? We all went, oh, God. But he turned out all right. But I can't remember if Jaden Anthony played in that one and wasn't great and then sort of just became more peripheral as the season went on.
I'm going to say yes. It's weird, though. It's like what you were saying. I would rather have Laji Ramazani, who I know absolutely nothing about. But I do know Anthony is like just fine and pretty inoffensive. I was like, Ramazani could be brilliant or he could be terrible. Like either way, it's kind of fun.
Roll the dice.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. Yeah,
Shiny new toys.
He did.
Exactly.
He did play in that game, by the way.
I felt like he did. Yeah. And I don't know if did he start a game again after that? I'm not sure that he did.
He played the cup. Played some cup games, definitely. Didn't he? 'Cause he scored that really good goal in the cup. But
Yeah, there was a tribute to his mum, wasn't there, in that when he scored that. But yeah, in terms of somebody probably not making a return appearance, Connor Roberts, I think he picked up an injury for Wales. I saw him hobbling off, looking fairly miserable in the Montenegro rain. So he might not come back. Yeah, I think he's crying off there. He don't want to come back to the club that he really loves, does he? And play against us.
I mean, that was the story of his Leeds career. He'd go play for Wales, get injured, then we'd never really see him. Did you see Carl Darlow nearly get lobbed from the halfway line?
Yeah, we spoke about it.
Oh, really? Yeah. That was good.
Yeah. How he gave up and then went, oh, no, actually, I better run back for that. It's like, oh, no, he's done me. So we've got a potential target for our ire against Burnley in their midfield.
Yeah, they seem to have signed the big Sideshow Bob Hannibal bloke from Scum on loan. He's easily recognisable too. Obviously got massive hair, so he's very easy to pick on, which is useful because sometimes if there's like a lot of similar looking players in a midfield, you don't know who to pick on. But yeah, he's stands out a mile, so that's good.
Was he at Sevilla last year?
He was, yeah.
Did Arta sign him and he was crap?
I think, but there were loads of...
I struggle to believe that's true, Rob.
But there were loads of press. There's press coverage about suggesting that he thought he was above it all, of attitude problems potentially. Just wasn't prepared to do the work to play his way into Sevilla's team and stuff. And I think it all went a little bit sour there.
Again, hard to imagine if Victor Orta would create such a squad of misfits.
New mag coming out for the Burnley game as well. Issue 2 for the season.
Absolutely. Go bite off Michael in the Lowfields tunnel. We've got...
Nice early start, yeah. I love those half 12s.
Ones,
it's not 12:30, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Don't get there at 3.
Oh, it is at 12:30. You're right. Yeah, it's Cardiff that's 3 o'clock. Yeah.
But yeah, there's I interviewed Simon Johnson, former Leeds player. He's talking about how much he hates Kevin Blackwell.
Everyone hates Kevin Blackwell.
Yeah, which he was saying he didn't realise at the time. I think it's been quite comforting for him to realise that he wasn't the only one. Chris has written about Radrazani appearing at Sampdoria and then disappearing, basically. He's not involved there anymore. We've got some terrible names on the back of Leeds shirts that people no doubt regret now. That some of those are absolutely spectacular. You've got Paddy Gunn looking back at 2014-15 and the madness of all that. This season we've started going back into the archive as well, digging out some pieces from right back at the very start of the Square Ball. And from the very first issue, we've got a story about a Leeds fan remembering his first game at Ellen Road, which was a very good one. It was when we beat Southampton 7-0 in 1972, and Jack Charlton nicked his bobble hat.
Wow.
Which is very good.
So yeah, that is available on the website and at the ground. Also on the website, summer special as well. Coops was one of our cover stars for the summer special. 3 of them on there.
All departed.
Yeah. Ayling, Dallas.
We did know that in fairness.
And Coops. Yeah. So we knew he was going because his contract had expired. They would seem to be sitting on waiting on some sort of a tribute or an announcement or a nice goodbye video or whatever until he found himself a new club. Seems like it took him a while to find one. But a lovely goodbye statement as well that ran to 2 images on Twitter and the social platforms, which I thought was really nice and it was really heartfelt. And again, as a tweet from our account, like, it was very humble. Like, never, I was never claimed to be perfect kind of thing, but gave it my all, and I think that's how he's going to be remembered. Great value.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Leeds captains of my lifetime, very long serving and like one of the very few who's actually can hang his hat on achieving something with Leeds, like actually lifted a trophy. It remains the only time I've actually managed to see that as I say in person. I felt like I was in person as a proper supporter because I was a bit young for 92, so kind of don't have much of a memory of it. But yeah, I mean, unbelievable service, and I think it's been a bit of a shame that it's been spread out so much as this goodbye, because it felt like there was people like Click left and Ayling left, and there was a very clear line drawn under it. Dallas got to retire, and there was a big outpouring, whereas this has been going on for like months, basically, from the end of the season, where he was kind of saying goodbye as early as the Norwich playoff game, and then now we're into September, and he's actually putting his leaving statement out. It's just taken a very long time.
He's had that saved as a draft for months, hasn't he? But no, it was really nice to see just all the love he was getting and the appreciation from fans, because I must admit I found it quite weird, because I was a bit like, are you guys all talking about the same guy you've been talking about for the last 10 years? Because basically everyone's just slagged him off the whole time, more or less. But it was very nice to see him get some love, which was very much deserved. And I really like how that game against Norwich, his last appearance at Ellen Road, when his family were walking out on the pitch with him afterwards, and his little boy was there, and that's the little boy that was obviously in hospital before the Brentford game when he scored that really important equaliser, and Bielsa went to visit him and said a little prayer for him. And you think, yeah, just really nice how things have turned out. Like, well done, Liam. Like you were saying about Leeds captains, he's the only one in my lifetime to have achieved something. So that is very much something to be proud of.
And on that, he says, the 2020 promotion team was probably the best team I've ever been involved with. A team built on pure hard work and humility. The weight of the shirt is very heavy, but we put side before self and came together to achieve something special with memories that will last forever. And Liam Cooper's never going to be one of the favourites out of that promotion team. But as time starts to pass and there is more distance between that thing happening and the present day, you can view it through probably more rational eyes, can't you? And you can ignore the flaws. Like, it softens the edges a little bit on the anxiety that we experienced at the time of trying to get promoted, because it was at times horrible, and you were desperately hoping that Cooper wouldn't do a Cooperism, and for the most part, he absolutely didn't. But this distance now allows us to go, do you know what? That group of players, they really did come together. They played above themselves, coached by a world-class, unique coach. And, all these players are a testament, I think, to Bielsa's ability as a coach, which is probably a separate discussion. But what they did, they achieved something. They did achieve something really, really special. Memories that will last forever for them. And for us too, we can just look back and really, really appreciate them now as a thing that happened. They were part of a thing. And
if him and Ayling and Dallas had been more obvious stars, it wouldn't have been as good. Like, part of the joy of it was that he was this guy who'd been around for a few years, and
there was an aspirational quality to it, wasn't there?
And no one was really sure where any of it was going. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, right, wow, he's in the Premier League.
I think that's some of the thing as well. Like, we all obviously talk about Bielsa and his magic, but the players themselves, they had to do it. And it was Cooper and Dallas, like, when Bielsa was appointed, but they hadn't started pre-season yet, they were like, well, we're not going to drink. Like, we're going to really commit to this. And it was them that were grafting the bollocks off, basically, because you saw someone like Saiz, like, we've had a lot more talented players in those squads, and they just fell away because they couldn't cope. Whereas Cooper, Dallas, Ayling, Click, all those names, they just stuck at it and got more out of themselves than I think they probably ever expected. And yeah, all that group of players, they might not have been perfect, but I just feel like really proud of them now that they achieved what they did. And I'm really glad they did, because they all seem like good blokes, to be fair.
Yeah, and if we go up this season, it'll be a massive celebration again, but it'd be with, like, the centre-back would be Joe Rodon, who we've paid 10 million quid for, and the captain will be Ethan Ampadu, who was at Chelsea and has been a Wales international for years and cost 7 million quid. It's not got it sort of fits more. It's like these are the players you would buy to get up, whereas probably no one was, well, Gary Monk was not picking Liam Cooper, was he, to get us promoted from this division? He was behind Pontus Jansson and Kyle Bartley at the time.
You've made a really good point there, actually. We always said we'd love to attack this division with the advantage of parachute payments, and now we are doing. And I know it's a squeeze. I'm talking about Angus Kinnear again, like he's made it obvious. It's a squeeze. But then you frame it against the one where we didn't. Bielsa took us up with these players, and it's nowhere near as romantic, is it? It's funny how your brain works like that.
The reaction, though, to it does make me think, I hope if we go up the season, we appreciate these players and what they've achieved, because it's really fucking hard to get promoted and win stuff in football. And I think there is maybe a sense of, like, complacency almost. Like, you see Joe Rodon, who everyone loved last year and won our Player of the Year, and he's returned this season because he seemed to be really into it. And then, he's not been as good, but we've kept 3 clean sheets out of 4 in the league. And everyone's like, oh, fucking hell, Rodon, he's not as good, is he? It's like, come on, just like these players, because once they're gone, everyone's like, oh, fuck, I love that guy. It's like, come on, just appreciate what you've got sometimes.
But I suppose that goes back to the point.
Unless it's Max Verber, to be clear.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I suppose it goes back to the point that I threw at Kinnear, which was, do you think Leeds fans will ever be happy? And I think we will never find a natural level of happiness or satisfaction until we're out of this division. And even then, it won't last for very long. No. The joy will be fleeting, which is another thing that Marcelo always touched on, wasn't it?
The key is to just keep very slightly improving so no one ever gets unhappy. You need to just always finish a league place above where you did the year before, to just so you can always feel like you're going vaguely in the right direction. Because if you finish 9th and the year after you finish 14th, everyone goes, it's fucking rubbish now.
We should try that this season.
What, finishing 9th?
No, finishing a league place higher than we did last season.
No, it's fine, yeah. Let's do that. Not 9th. Although 9th at least avoids the playoffs.
The Square Ball Podcast.